G'day YouTube, Warbles on a lot here. Commencing part 4 of David Suzuki's Christmas address for 2017.
And then there are other things: capitalism, communism, the economy, markets, corporations. These are not forces or laws of nature. We invented them, for God's sake. But if you listen to the news about the economy every morning, my God, you'd swear they were a thing out there. Oh, market's not looking too healthy today. And you think there's poor market sitting there with a nice bag in its head going, I feel really lousy today. What the hell? We invented the damn thing. And yet we're constantly trying to shoehorn nature to fit our economic or corporate agenda. It can't work that way. We have to do it the other way and shoehorn our inventions into nature's needs. So this is a challenge, and I'd like to end it by suggesting something the foundation, the David Suzuki Foundation, did for the Earth Summit meetings in 1992 to provide perhaps a different perspective on our place in nature. We call it a declaration of interdependence. This we know: we are the earth to the animals and plants that nourish us. We are the rains in the oceans that flow through our veins. We are the breath of the forests of the land and the plants of the sea. We are human animals, related to all other life as descendants of that firstborn cell. We share with these kin a common history written in our genes. We share a common present filled with uncertainty, and we share a common future as yet untold. We humans are but one of 30 million species weaving the thin layer of life enveloping the world. The stability of communities of living things depends upon that diversity. Linked in that web, we are interconnected, using, cleansing, sharing, and replenishing the fundamental elements of life. Our home, planet Earth, is finite. All life shares its resources and the energy from the sun, and therefore has limits to growth. For the first time, we have touched those limits. When we compromise the air, the water, the soil, and the variety of life, we steal from the endless future to serve the fleeting present. This we believe. Humans have become so numerous and our tools so powerful that we have driven fellow creatures to extinction, dammed the great rivers, torn down ancient forests, poisoned the earth, rain, and wind, and ripped holes in the sky. Our science has brought pain as well as joy. Our comfort is paid for by the suffering of millions. We are learning from our mistakes. We are mourning our vanished kin, and we now build a new politics of hope. We respect and uphold the absolute need for clean air, water, and soil. We see that economic activities that benefit the few while shrinking the inheritance of many are wrong. And since environmental degradation erodes biological capital forever, full ecological and social cost must enter all equations of development. We are one brief generation in the long march of time. The future is not ours to erase. So where knowledge is limited, we will remember all those who will walk after us and err on the side of caution. This we resolve. All this that we know and believe must now become the foundation of the way that we live. At this turning point in our relationship with Earth, we work for an evolution from dominance to partnership, from fragmentation to connection, from insecurity to interdependence. Thank you.
Thank you. Sustained applause for David Suzuki, 80. still stirring them up at Womadelaide in March. And there will be another Womadelaide Festival in March 2017. And the science show returns there next week with David Suzuki and friends, including Indra Naidu, talking about love of country.
My work has led me very much to believe that it is all about love. You really can't get people to care about the environment unless they love it. And it is quite a difficult proposition for people like most of us in Australia who live in cities. We're quite disconnected from nature. We're disconnected from our food, which is most people's connection to nature. So for my journey, which has been a slightly unusual one, I guess, coming from broadcasting and journalism to now very much a passionate advocate for addressing climate change and the environment, really has come from a place of love. And it wasn't until I went back to my apartment in Potts Point in inner Sydney, and I was standing on my balcony and looking out on all the bare concrete and tarmac around Potts Point, which is the point of greatest population density in Australia. 12,000 people per square kilometre live in my suburb. And I realised I was actually at the heart of the problem, and I was at the heart of the disconnection. I was at a farmer's market that week, and a farmer gave me the most amazing tasting cherry tomato, Robin, to try. And it was the sweetest, most delicious tomato I'd ever had. And when I went back and said to him, where did this come from? Who grew it? He said, I grew it myself. It's an heirloom variety. It doesn't store or transport well, so you have to eat it after it's been picked. And I said, well, how can I get more of them? And he said, well, buy some of my tomatoes, save some of the seeds, plant it in a pot, and you can have these tomatoes whenever you want. I'm still reaping tomatoes from that seed 9 years later. Not only did I only grow tomatoes, I grew 43 different herbs and vegetables on that small balcony. And in 1 year, I grew 70 kilos of produce.
Indra Naidu on the Science Show next week. And all the very best for Christmas from me, Robin Williams, and producer David Fisher. And we end in the traditional way.
We three kings of Orient are, one on a tractor, two in a car, one on a scooter, tooting a hooter, following yonder star. Oh, star of wonder, star of light, star of beauty, she'll be right, star of glory, that's the story, following yonder star.
Okay, there you go. That was that was a science show. I first heard it. Well, like today's Thursday, so I heard it on Sunday, and I thought it was a ripper. And I actually commented on a friend of mine's video and told him, you know, like, hey mate, turn on ABC Radio National right now because I'm an hour and a half in front of you because I'm on the east coast of Australia and you're on the west coast of Australia. The friend's name is VB Ed. He's also got a channel called Totally Trumped, which he's pushing at the moment. So, you know, go looking for Totally Trumped or VB Ed. He's a good bloke. And I wanted him to turn on his radio to ABC Radio National FM, listen to the science show and hear that when it first came out. And I'm pretty sure he was, you know, busy at the time. Like, he's a tax accountant, lives in Perth. And anyway, for all of the other of my subscribers, and there's like something like 2,051 of them. And I'm really humbled at the idea that that's how many people have trained their computer to tell them when I upload a video. Well, here we go, fellas and ladies, and all the gender confused, and anybody else with some other kind of take on living on planet Earth as a thinking human or thinking, feeling human. I've been listening to David Suzuki for 30 or 40 years. He makes a lot of sense. He's a geneticist. First time I ever read a book by a geneticist, it was written by Sir Robert Macfarlane Burnett. And I was I think a second year student nurse. And it really impressed me that back then, you know, in the way back when, 1982, I guess, Macfarlane Burnett had already published a book where he said that if 99.99% of humanity had been killed in a nuclear spasmic war, he reckoned, and if he admitted this was an unrealistic assumption, but he said if the survivors, 0.001% of humanity, had repopulated at the same rate that the Dutch colonists did when they hit South Africa and they started calling themselves Boers, on average, they had 8 children per couple. 8 surviving children per couple. Now, they might have actually had 12 babies and 8 of them lived. But yeah, he reckoned that within 200 years, humanity could recover from losing 99.99% of itself via a nuclear exchange if we all bred like the white South Africans did. But, you know, in reality, trying to rebuild the world after a thermonuclear exchange is not going to be anything at all whatsoever like a bunch of Dutchmen with guns showing up in South Africa 400 years ago. Just bracket, ifiably, question mark, close bracket, saying. So yeah, I thought that David Suzuki's address at Womadelaide in March 2016 was absolutely brilliant. Thank you, Robin Williams, for putting it on ABC Radio National FM Science Show, which has been rebroadcast because it's the Christmas season. Everything ABC Radio National is doing is getting rebroadcast anywhere between 4 and 12 times. So I was able to catch this and give it something of a cinematographic video background, and I'm going to pump it out there onto the internet, and I'm sure you can get it on podcast on abc.net.au.fm or whatever the fucking hell it is. I don't have a computer, so I don't actually go out there into the web except on YouTube. And this site was bookmarked onto my mobile phone by my daughter 5.5 years ago. I'm a techno neo-Luddite kind of thing, or neo-techno-Luddite, whatever you want to say. If you can fix it with a screwdriver, you know, and a pair of pliers, I'm pretty good. If it takes a computer hooter and baked silicon to underconstumble it, no, I'm not so good at that. But anyway, yeah, David Suzuki is advocating that we all pay much more attention to how Indigenous people lived sustainably upon planet Earth, because it's abundantly clear that listening to the economists telling the politicians why you don't have to pay attention to the environment because we live on an endlessly exploitable flat Earth kind of thing hasn't worked out really so well. We have broken all of the biosphere's homeostasis mechanisms: species extinction, deforestation, overharvesting, overconsumption, pollution. We've really made a mess, you know, like we've shit in the nest, we've crapped on the doorstep, you know. It's like fucking the next door neighbour's daughter, you know. It causes ructions, problems, you know. Thou shalt not shit on thy doorstep. If you're going to have extramarital affairs, don't do them next door. Well, anyway, you can't go next door when you live on a single mud ball orbiting a hydrogen fusion reaction at a distance of 93 million miles. Here we are. We're living on planet Earth. The option of going to Mars and terraforming Mars as an escape pod, it's not real. It really is not. 20 years ago, we used to be able to get 12 people into space. At the moment, we can only get 11. Warbles on a lot to YouTube. That was David Suzuki's message to planet Earth for 2017. Ciao.